It has come to my attention that after the release of Vanilla Transformers and its subsequent expansions, no one has really ever bothered to cover the actual meta. Most of the fandom seems to be focused on what new characters are added into the game, which ones get eliminated the quickest, and which ones look to be the most OP. So since no one has ever bothered to cover the actual power scaling of the Transformers meta, I decided to take the initiative and actually cover it. Now, since there are way too many characters expanding from the vanilla game to the other expansions, I decided to separate each expansion for a different video. For example, in this video I will cover the Transformers 2007 movie, while in other parts I will cover the other expansions and a lot of the other characters that appear in there. Same goes for the Decepticons depending on how well this video does. But today, we are covering the Autobots, and not only that, but we're also gonna cover some toyline exclusive Autobots. Not only do most of them appear in the IDW comics, but we also have stats from them, so we can get a good feel of where they belong in the meta. Let's get right into it. Now the way I'm gonna go about ranking them is first I'm gonna tell you their stats, and then I'm gonna place them somewhere in the tier list. The tier list consists of F tier being the lowest tier, D tier being the second to lowest worst tier, C tier being the middle tier, B tier being the decent tier, A tier being the good tier, and S tier being the OP/best tier. If you believe that a certain character shouldn't be on a certain tier, feel free to comment down below, or while you're at it, come up with your own tier. If your own tier is different than mine, then feel free to disagree and list your own version of the tier list down below. So we'll start with Optimus Prime. Now Optimus Prime's stats are ridiculous. His strength is max. He was able to punch Bone Crusher once and managed to make his eyes pop out. His intelligence is of course also max. Since being the leader of the Autobots and one of the oldest Autobots around, he has of course accumulated a lot of wisdom. Of course, with him being a large robot, his speed is not gonna be the greatest. His defense is max, since at one point in the game, Megatron's ion cannon managed to send Optimus flying off the streets, yet he was still able to get up and keep on fighting. His courage is of course max as well, since he never hesitated to engage a single Decepticon. Being the leader of the Autobots and having the most experience, of course explains his max rank. While we haven't seen Optimus Prime use his firepower to its fullest extent in the game, his official stats state that his firepower is also max, while his skill in combat is 1 point short of being max. Overall, Optimus Prime has some really overpowered stats. But he's the leader of the Autobots, and of course he must have some of the most broken stats in the game. So Optimus Prime easily qualifies as S tier. Next up we got Jazz. Jazz's strength is not that impressive. He has an okay set of strength. This is due to his small size. His intelligence is on par with his strength, which I guess it's believable. But since he's so small, his speed is 1 point short of being max. This has been shown in his battle against Brawl. His defense, it's alright, it's decent. He was able to withstand one of Megatron's shots, but he's clearly seen to be heavily injured. His courage again is 9, he was never afraid to take on Decepticons that are bigger than him. By being the second in command, he has one of the highest ranks on the Autobot side. His firepower however is fairly decent. It might do some damage but not anything too critical. And his skill in combat is also pretty decent. Overall, Jazz's build is pretty decent. All of the stats are pretty evenly distributed and he's not really lacking in anything. It's just that his stats are just that. Okay, they're nothing too great. Even if he excels at speed, courage and rank, that's not gonna get him very far. So I will have to place Jazz at B tier. Next up we got a fan favorite character, Ironhide. Now, his strength is 7. This is actually pretty believable due to his tall stature. His intelligence level however is fairly okay. His speed's actually decent, he's not really fast, however, his defense is 1 point short of being max, and this can be seen when Starscream shoots Bumblebee and Ironhide. Bumblebee ends up losing his legs, but Ironhide gets out of that just fine. Courage 9, he's never afraid to take on any Decepticon. His rank is 8, being the Autobots weapon specialist. And I'm actually surprised that his firepower is 7. I mean, it's good firepower, but I kind of expected it to be higher. And his skill in combat is decent. Overall, Ironhide is just like a slightly better version of Jazz. He's more of an offensive tank. And while he's quite slow, you can bet that he's one of the most dangerous Autobots to go up against. So I will be placing Ironhide in A tier. Next up we got Ratchet. Ratchet's strength is 4, pretty low. His intelligence is actually pretty high. So in combat he's gonna be a pretty tricky opponent to go up against. His speed is slightly higher than Ironhide. His defense, however, it's 1 point short of perfect. His courage is on par with Optimus Prime. His rank, however, as the Autobots medical officer, it's shockingly low. And his firepower, it's just bad. However, his skill is max. This is due to his medical expertise and overall performance in combat, despite his offensive stats being extremely low. Ratchet is a tank. His intelligence, defense, courage, and skill are above average. So while he may not be able to deal a lot of significant damage to the opponent, he's not really meant to take the enemy down, he's meant to outlip them. Ratchet is a tank, sure, but his damage is fairly low. Against someone like Ironhide, who's also a tank but has better offensive capabilities, Ratchet doesn't have much of a chance. So I'll be putting Ratchet at B tier. Next up we got Bumblebee. Now Bumblebee's strength is 6. Shockingly it's the same as Ironhide. His intelligence is 8, speed 6, his defense is alright, kinda low. One of Starscream's missiles was enough to explode his legs off. His courage is max, his rank is alright, his firepower is shockingly low. But if you take into account that in the first movie, the only time Bumblebee's hand cannon has been seen doing damage against Decepticons was against an injured Brawl. This Brawl was already injured and tired after fighting 2 Autobots and the human forces. So Bumblebee just came at the last second and finished him off. So his firepower being that low, it's kinda believable. Now his skill being above average, it's kinda believable. Despite his low defense and average strength, he was still able to overpower Barricade in a fight, meaning that Bumblebee is a pretty skilled combatant when it comes to physical combat. So I will be putting Bumblebee at low B tier. Next up we got Landmine. His strength is fairly decent. His intelligence is 7, his speed is fairly decent, but his defense is really low. This can be seen in the IDW expansion, since he was taken down pretty quickly by the Decepticon wreckage. His courage, however, is pretty good. Since he is a newborn creation of the Allspark, his rank and experience is of course gonna be fairly low. His firepower, however, is pretty decent. It's not gonna do too much damage, but it's enough to annoy Decepticons. And his skill in battle is pretty low. This can be seen in the IDW expansion, where Wreckage managed to dispose of 3 landmine players at the same time. Overall landmine stats are pretty evenly distributed. He's an okay Autobot. The only major issue with him will be his defense, since it's fairly low. But overall, Landmine's not that bad. I will place Landmine at C tier. Next up we got another creation of the Allspark, Longarm. Now Longarm's strength is actually pretty high. His intelligence, however, is fairly low. His speed is the same as Ironhide's. His defense and courage are above average. However, again, by being a new creation of the Allspark, his rank is fairly low. His firepower, however, is higher than the weapons specialist, shockingly enough, and his skill in battle is a 6. Now Longarm's above average stats are all essential in a battle. However, the only thing that brings him a little down will be his low intelligence. What good is amazing strength and firepower if you don't know how to use it? Or if you cannot find some creative ways on how to use them? Ironhide's firepower was slightly lower, but he found some creative ways to use it in battle. Can you imagine Longarm doing that with that low intelligence? No. Longarm's build and Ironhide's build are pretty close together, but I will give the slight edge to Ironhide, and I will place Longarm in A tier. He's still a pretty good choice to pick for you new players out there. Next up we got another creation of the Allspark, Salvage. Now Salvage's strength is the same as Longarm's. His intelligence, however, is even lower. His speed is pretty low. His defense, however, is above average. His courage, it's okay. He has no rank / experience because he's a new creation of the Allspark. Also in his bio it says that he doesn't really like working with the Autobots. He prefers being a truck. His firepower is pretty low and his skill is pretty low. Now this is kind of a shame really, because Longarm's stats, his strength and defense seem very promising, but low courage, low intelligence, low rank, and his other stats are either decent or fairly low. So despite Salvage being a really good offensive tank, his other stats really bring him down. So I will place Salvage in D tier. Next up we got Cliff Jumper. Cliff Jumper's strength is pretty good. He's able to dispose of Decepticons pretty quickly with his brute strength. However, his intelligence is kinda low. However, since he's a small Autobot, his speed is obviously gonna be pretty high. His defense is also shockingly good. He has some pretty good armor plating to protect him. This is shown in the IDW comics when he was able to survive one of Thundercracker's surprise attacks. He was almost split in half and he was able to escape to safety. His courage is a max. His rank, however, it's okay, it's not that great. Firepower is the same as Ironhide, so it's pretty good. His skill in combat is just decent. Overall, Cliff Jumper is a pretty well-rounded Autobot with his offensive and defensive stats being amazing. The only thing that brings him down is his intelligence. But overall, I will say that the other stats more than make up for it. Against Ironhide, he has slightly better stats, so I will place him in A tier above Ironhide. Next up we got Evac. And no Dark of the Moon expansion players, I'm not talking about that Evac, there's another Evac. Now by being a helicopter and a pretty huge Autobot, his stats are of course gonna be pretty big. His strength is a 7. His intelligence is shockingly above average. Despite being so tall, he has pretty good speed. He has a defense of 9 which makes him a 10, a courage of 10, a rank of 5 which is alright, a firepower of 6 which is decent as well, and a skill level of 8. So due to his above average intelligence and skill, Evac in battle is gonna be a really tough and tricky opponent to take down. Not only that, but you also have his amazing strength and almost max defense. Evac is definitely one of the strongest Autobots around. So I will place him in low S tier. Next up we got Autobot Camshaft. Now shockingly enough, his strength is above average. His intelligence is pretty alright. His speed is also pretty good. Much like Cliff Jumpers, his defense is pretty high. That's thanks to his armor plating. His courage level, it's alright. His rank's fairly low. His firepower is pretty good along with his skills. Despite being a rather forgettable Autobot, Camshaft's stats are shockingly good. The only thing that brings him down will be his rank. And his firepower, skill, and intelligence are just okay, they're not great. The only thing that he excels at will be his strength and defense. However, that still makes Camshaft a pretty fearsome opponent in battle. I will place Camshaft at B tier above Ratchet. Watch out, Jazz, the new second in command is about to demote you. And next up to finish this, we got RC. Now despite being so small, RC's strength is above average. Her intelligence is pretty okay. Her speed is also above average. This is of course thanks to her small stature. Her defense is just decent, her courage is just okay, her ranks again just decent. Firepower however is pretty good, and her skill is 1 point away from being a max. Overall, RC is a slightly better version of Cliff Jumper. The only thing that brings her down will be her defense and courage, since with that low defense she was taken out pretty quickly by Starscream. And her courage is not as good as Cliff Jumper since she doubts herself during a battle. And since she's a young Autobot, she still has much to learn, which explains her low ranking and alright intelligence. However, when it comes to her offensive stats, she excels at that. Excel and match those of Cliff Jumpers, with her defensive capabilities being the only thing that she's lacking. But she still makes up for it with her okay intelligence stat. She has the intellect to use her strength and weaknesses in battle, which puts her higher above Cliff Jumper in A tier. And yes guys, that is the Transformers Bandela 2007 tier list. F tier is empty because not Autobot is that bad to be in there yet. Salvage in D tier. At C tier we got Landmine. At B tier we got Bumblebee, followed by Ratchet, followed by Camshaft, and then followed by Jazz. While in A tier we got Longarm, followed by Ironhide, followed by Cliff Jumper, and followed by RC. And at S tier we got Evac, who is of course outmatched and outperformed by the broken stats of Optimus Prime. The developers should really nerf him. But anyways guys, that is my Autobot tier list for Transformers 2007. If you got your own tier list or disagree with any of these choices and their placements, feel free to comment that down below as well as your reasoning for it. Depending on how well this video does, I will do a part 2 where I cover the Decepticons side of things. But anyways guys, that's it for this video. Like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys! Hey guys, time for some Patreon shoutouts. Patreon shoutouts goes to Librado Marufo, aka L, Sachin Morak aka Mirage, and Trans TV's aka Knockout. Make sure to go check out Trans TV's channel. I'm so sorry guys, I gotta cut this Patreon segment short, but I've been recording this for 40 minutes and I don't want to do this any longer than I need to, so I'm gonna end it pretty quickly, okay? So sorry, but this has been quite a long video to do. So like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!